Karen stormed up to my Lakeside mansion, wagging her finger and yelling about HOA violations, demanding I vacate my own property. I calmly told her to leave, but she doubled down and called the cops, screaming about trespassing. When the sheriff arrived, she smirked like she'd won, till he saluted me and said, "Mr. Commissioner, we've got a situation." Her jaw dropped. Turns out I don't just own this land, I run the entire county. What happened next? Let's just say Karen won't be patrolling my shoreline again. My Lakeside mansion wasn't just a home, it was my haven. Perched on 300 acres of uninterrupted shoreline, it had floor-to-ceiling windows, private marina, and the kind of silence that money can't buy. And best of all, no neighbors, at least until the HOA bought out a patch of land half a mile, a way to build their luxury lakeside community. That's when she arrived. Karen, the self-proclaimed president of the HOA, strutted through the gravel roads like she was queen of the county. Within weeks, I was getting courtesy notices in my mailbox. According to her, my flagpole was too high, my dock was too wide, and my mansion didn't match the community aesthetic, never mind the fact that my estate had been here for 12 years long. Before her subdivision broke ground, asterisk, I ignored the letters. But Karen didn't like being ignored. She showed up one Saturday in a golf cart with 2 clipboard-carrying minions and barked orders like she was running a military base. "You are in direct violation of HOA Code 17B, she snapped, pointing to my cobblestone driveway.
Ow.
This isn't a recognized pattern in the HOA-approved materials list. I laughed and said, "Lady, this house isn't in your HOA. She turned red and started snapping pictures like some vigilante code enforcer. The next morning, I woke up to orange warning tape across my gate and a final notice to vacate the premises. Asterisk, that was the last straw. I walked down to her new neighborhood and invited her and her entire board to a formal meeting. I led them straight into the county municipal building, past reception, and into the commissioner's chamber. That's when they realized DI wasn't just a landowner. I was the county commissioner. Every permit, every zoning decision, every HOA boundary extension, they went across my desk. Karen's jaw practically hit the marble floor when she sat down and saw my name on the plaque, Commissioner James R. Mercer. I politely informed her that her new development was under review due to excessive encroachment into protected wetland. Then I dropped the bombshell. Her HOA didn't even have jurisdiction over the land they thought they controlled. Asterisk, of course. She didn't back down. Instead, she doubled down. A week later, I was in my study when flashing lights lit up the lawn. Sheriff's deputies rolled up the driveway, called in by Karen to arrest me for trespassing on community property. I stepped out with a coffee in hand and asked what the problem was. When the lead deputy saw me, he tipped his hat and said, "Sorry, sir. Didn't realize it was your property." Karen stormed out from her SUV, pointing furiously and screaming about how I illegally squatted on HOA land. The deputies calmly explained that I owned the entire ridge and that she was actually trespassing. Asterisk, her expression froze. I pulled out a leather-bound folder with the original land grants, permits, and a map showing my ownership of over 70% of the surrounding land, including the very road she drove in on. I even pointed to the building permits her HOA failed to file correctly. Karen stammered something about lawyers, but I just smiled and said, "You'll need them." Asterisk, that was the beginning of her unraveling, and I was just getting started. Karen thought she could bully her way through bureaucracy. But I had the county council, zoning board, and historical preservation committee on speed dial. Her development was sitting smack in the middle of a watershed restoration zone. Worse, the HOA had illegally diverted runoff into the lake. That alone triggered over $2 million in fines, enough to bankrupt her association. I issued an emergency injunction halting all construction and froze their community budget till an environmental review could be completed. Asterisk, meanwhile, Karen tried to go public, claiming corruption and favoritism. She didn't realize I had decades of public service behind me and a spotless record. Local news outlets ran the story. But once they discovered her HOA hadn't even been properly registered with the county clerk's office, public opinion turned fast. Asterisk. In the final blow, I hosted a town hall meeting on the lake's southern pier. Hundreds showed up. I unveiled the new conservation project funded by the state. It would restore the shoreline and officially declassify the HOA's newly built roads as public infrastructure. In other words, they no longer owned their own roads. Karen tried to object, but the sheriff reminded her she was under investigation for filing false reports and impersonating a county official. She left in handcuffs. Now. Her mansion is up for auction. The HOA dissolved, and my Lakeside peace restored.